All right. Hello, everybody. This is going to be the first video I've ever made. Not really my YouTube career. I have made videos before, but I made them when I was a kid. You know, I think everyone's made a couple of videos when they're a kid. I was not an exemption from that. I've made a few, but I never really made a series of content that I was happy with or proud of. I mean, I was a kid. You know, I was pumping out some odd stuff as a kid. You know, I've been down every facet of YouTube you can possibly imagine. But that was a long time ago, right? You know, that was years ago. I'm in college now. I've grown up a little more. Life's kind of hit me. I'm no longer a small kid who's got honestly no real problems. Life's beginning to kind of start for me, and that's caused me to have a few problems and learn a few lessons. And that's kind of what I was hoping to make these videos about. You know, kind of a way to vent what I've learned about, vent what's been going on in my life and what I'm thinking about. I don't know how often I'll upload. You know, I'll upload as much as I can. This is just kind of something I'm trying out. You know, I always grew up watching YouTube. Every night before I had a bedtime, it was 10:30 p.m. You know, I remember it. I don't know why it was 10:30. I think I said it, to be honest with you. I don't know why it was 10:30. I don't know why I didn't go for the full hour, but it was 10:30. And for years, 9:30, I was in my bed watching YouTube. I love YouTube. I grew up with it. It's something I use every single day, and it's something I've thought about participating in community, or what's it called? Participating in the community, if you will, for a very long time. And it's something I never really put a lot of true thought into. Again, you know, I made a few videos, but I've never really fully committed, right? I never really went all in. And I'm about to enter the real world. I'm about to get a real job, be a real man, put on my suit and tie, and go earn a salary, right? So I figured I'd do this before life gets a little too crazy, and it's not necessarily too late, but just not something that's on my mind anymore. So that's kind of what this is. That's what some of these videos will be. Some of it, because I do plan on posting more than just this video. Some of it might just be dumb stuff, you know. I love movies. I might just talk about movies. I might talk about games. I love video games. You know, I'm playing Titanfall 2 right now. Not really. I'm speaking over Titanfall 2. I'm not playing this shit right now. But I play games. I've watched a ton of movies, and I like to yap about them. You know, I like to talk my head off about them. But we're about 3.5 minutes in, and I haven't even introduced the topic, so I should probably do that. So what I wanted to really speak about today was doing things for the love of the game. You know, just doing it for you, right? That's basically what I wanted to get at with this. Because I feel like doing stuff for yourself, or just doing it because you love it or want to do it, I think it's something, you know, I've forgotten about. I don't really want to speak for everyone in the world, but, you know, I'm assuming I'm not the first person to face this, especially at my age, but I kind of lost that going through my life and going through my college career. I kind of forgot about making time for the things that I want to do and the things that I love. And it was something that I'd had for a long time. You know, I would just do stuff simply because I love to do it. Leading up to college, that's what I remember. I remember leading up to college, I just do stuff I like to do. I didn't have to reason behind it. But, you know, you're probably thinking, like, well, what happened? And funny enough, what I think happened personally is I think Instagram happened. You know, I don't know when this happened. I think it was probably around maybe COVID, when everyone was kind of locked in and, you know, locked into their rooms. But there's just been this movement of productivity, right? There's been this movement of productivity, and it feels like it has to be in everything we do. You know, it feels like if something that you're doing is not productive, you're wasting your time, right? And it's something that got to me after a while. After, you know, being on Instagram, it's difficult. It's difficult to go on Instagram and see how productive and how successful everyone else is in different facets of their lives, and you're just not even close, right? I can't tell you how many jack dudes I've seen doing fucking muscle ups. Okay, well that's, it's not indicative of my feed, but like, I've seen a lot of that. I've seen a lot of like physical fitness. I've seen a lot of like academic success, work success. I've seen, God, internship success. Man, that's fucking evil, bro. I don't even know how y'all are doing that. But stuff along those lines, right? And it gets to you. And it got to me in a very harsh way. Because it felt like if I wasn't doing something every second of my life that would lead to something to better my life down the line, for, status, for, physical health, wealth, for your job, you were wasting your time. You were wasting your time, and you should be ashamed of yourself if you weren't doing those things. And that kind of led to me breaking down all my hobbies and all the things I love to do. I broke them down into, how is this going to help me in the future, right? Am I wasting my time with this? A good example of this is, I love to draw, man. I love to draw. I love to illustrate. I would draw all the time. I draw all the time as a kid. And eventually, after a certain point in college, I just kind of let go of it. I struggle to kind of see the purpose in it. Because whenever I looked online, looked at everyone else's drawings, it was like, wow, they're really good. And to be honest with you, they work and train and learn a lot harder and a lot faster than me. So like, what's the point of doing this? Why am I here? What's the point of me even just posting like art? Just even it disregarded what I even wanted to do. If I had drawn something or illustrated something that I loved, and I was like, this is good, I'd go on any kind of, Instagram, Pinterest. I'd go in there and I'd see other people, and I'm like, well, what the hell's the point? I'm never going to be like these people. And on top of that, like, what am I doing that's really productive about this? Why am I even doing this? There's no point. And I began to categorize all my hobbies like that, and it, quite frankly, it made me miserable. If something wasn't directly impacting my future in a positive way, then it didn't matter. The most important part, that I'm learning now, me actually enjoying it, it wasn't even second or third on the list. It wasn't even on the list. I would do things, I would do hobbies, or I'd try to learn about stuff that I didn't even remotely care about. It was what other people would be doing. It was what, Instagram was doing. It's just, I didn't really have a say in what I was doing, and it made me miserable. I never really got to focus on what I enjoyed, right? And I think another good example of that is video games, right? Start of college, this mindset started really to impact me, and I just stopped playing games. And I love video games, man. They've been a good stress reliever. I just come home, play a few matches, enjoy my day, play some games. And it was good. I was happy. I'd sit in my chair, I'd play some Fallout 4, I'll play some Titanfall. I just enjoy the day and not think about, my future or like, what skill is this developing, or like, can I talk about this to my friends and coworkers? Like, it's none of that. You don't have to think about that. I'm just playing it because I want to play it. And it's something I kind of had to relearn, funny enough. I think it's just the age of social media and productivity kind of put a hurtin' on my enjoyment of life, And to be fair, this is also just a big critique of social media. Social media, I think, is awful. I think it is a horrific dystopian thing that it's made a lot of people's lives worse. This is nothing new. Everyone knows this, but we still use it, and we're not going to stop using it. Let's be honest. I'm not going to stop using it, if I'm being honest. I do it in moderation. Don't get me wrong. I'm not doom scrolling all the time, but I'm known to scroll. I've been known to scroll. Do it for the love of the game, right? Do things because you want to do them. Do things because you enjoy to do them. There doesn't have to be like a defined reason. You don't have to justify everything you do, right? If you like it, if you want to do it, then do it, right? It's really that simple. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't be productive. I'm not saying respectfully just, play games all day and don't really do anything. If you want to play games, don't do that, but don't ignore like the important parts of your life. You got family, friends, you got to eat and sleep, right? There's important stuff in your life that you do have to take care of, but I feel like that's just everything in moderation. That's just something that I think everyone kind of needs to keep in their minds, right? You don't want to just be doing one thing all the time. I think for the most part that's pretty good. Another example would be Pokemon Za, right? The game that just came out. I've been playing the hell out of that game. I love that game. That's a different topic for a different video. I know there's a lot of controversies, to that game. I've had fun playing it. Let me say that. I don't think it's a good game, but I have had fun with it. I just love Pokemon. Just today, right? I was productive. I got some work done. I got some of my projects worked on. I made progress today. And I made progress. And after I had made progress, I played some Pokemon Za. And for 2 hours, do you know what I did? For 2 hours, I hunted for an Alpha Garchomp in Wild Zone 20. And it took me 2 whole hours to get that guy. It was literally nothing but me teleporting to Wild Zone 20, running in a gate, looking to see if he was there, and then doing it again. I did that for 2 hours. If you think about it, right? Those 2 hours, I got basically nothing out of it. If I was thinking about this from how I used to think about productivity and enjoying my hobbies, that was a complete waste of time. The only thing I got out of it was this slightly bigger Garchomp, because, I love Garchomp, man. We'll get into that in a second. The only thing I got out of it was this random Pokemon in this random game I'll probably drop and never play again in a month. But you know what, man? I'm going to go home tonight, I'm going to play some more Za, and I'm going to have fun with my Alpha Garchomp, because I want to have fun with him. He's cool. I don't need a reason beyond that. I've made sure that other parts of my life are attended to, and I'm just going to enjoy my evening and just play with my new Pokemon that I spent 2 hours trying to catch. But if it had been 2 years ago, I would have looked in the mirror and beat myself up over that. I would have been like, hey, look at what everyone else is doing. No one's doing that. You're wasting your time and you're spending it on stuff that isn't going to matter. It's not going to matter in 5 to 10 years. And you're right, it's not going to matter in 5 to 10 years. But it is going to matter to me now. It's going to make me happy now. And if I continuously make myself happy now, in 5 years I'll be happy, right? 10 years I'll be happy. Again, I want to focus on, hey, you got to make sure other parts of your life are moving, right? But not every second of your life has to be dedicated to productivity. I thought my laptop just shut down. I was about to be so pissed. You don't have to focus on productivity so much. You can do stuff just because you want to do it. You don't need to sit there and justify every action you take. Oh my gosh, how could I forget this point? You're going to hate the stuff that you're doing if you do it like this. I mean, that's kind of, that's obvious, but you're going to hate the stuff, right? Back to my drawing example. I stopped drawing because I started to hate it, right? I couldn't just enjoy what I had made. I had kept comparing it. I kept thinking about where I was going with this. And I ended up I just hated the hobby, right? I didn't sit there and think, wow, I just made something cool and that makes me happy. I don't have to think about what everyone else did. It made me happy. I don't have to think about that. Or you shouldn't think about that, is what I'm getting at. You should just enjoy it. It should just be relaxing. It should be nice. You don't have to do it every single day. If you want to improve, you got to do it every, a little bit every day. But, that's a different viewpoint. I think that's more about like dedication and goals. I think that's less about, hey, you're comparing yourself and you're just not good enough. Not good enough to make this like a productive thing. I think that's honestly the majority of what I have written down, but I think the final note I'd like to say to end this is you don't have to justify your time doing things you love. You don't have to sit there and beat yourself up when you're going to bed thinking, man, I really wasted those 2 hours doing this stuff. You know, if you're doing stuff that you love and you're doing things that make you happy, you're doing all right, man. You're doing just fine. You know, I know a lot of these topics I've talked about seem kind of obvious, but it's stuff that, you know, was obvious to me growing up, and then I just kind of forgot about. So, you know, maybe I'm making this video for myself as well, so I don't forget it again, because, you know, God knows if that'll happen again, but I mostly just want to get on here, ramble my thoughts. I'm sure my next piece of content will be about, like, you know, like a movie or something. I don't know. I don't really know what this is. At the time I'm making this, I actually have no idea what the name of this channel is going to be. But, you know, other than that, I actually don't know how to end this either. You know, I don't know if I'm like an outro guy. This guy parks next to me. I'm just going to leave. Is he going to park next to me? Okay, no, he's leaving. Yeah, that's really all I got. Holy shit, he's parking next to me. Okay, we're going.